I was a 17-year-old student in France when all of this happened. I was living in an apartment next to my college's campus with 2 roommates. Let's call them Alex and Polly. I was coming back from my class at around 5:30 p.m. when I saw a guy waiting in front of our building. It was the kind of old building where you can enter without ringing. It was a big residence, so I just walked by him without really caring about why he was there. 15 minutes later, the same guy came up to my apartment. He pretended that he was one of Alex's friends, and that he was waiting for him, but Alex was late. He also told me the exact place where Alex was doing an internship at the time and even told me about his schedule for the day. With all the information that he gave me, I was confident that they knew each other, so I let him in. For the record, Alex's father used to work for a big company at the time, so even by looking it up on the internet, it was impossible to find anything about him. As a good host, I offered him something to drink and started talking with him while waiting for Alex. The conversation quickly turned to darker when he started to tell me about his past and about the amount of weapons he was keeping at his home in France. Around here, it really is unusual to have a gun at home, except if you're a hunter or in a profession that requires one. It was getting late, and as the conversation got darker, I started to feel uncomfortable with him, so I decided to send a text to Alex just to let him know that his friend was here, and that I wasn't really feeling comfortable with him. Alex answered me a few minutes later asking me to send a picture of his friend just to see who was here. So I took my phone out and discreetly took a picture of the person in front of me. After receiving it, Alex just told me that he was on his way home. When Alex arrived, I was relieved. He came into the living room and said hello to his friend, but then he just sat down and an awkward silence came along with it. After about a minute, I received a text from Alex telling me, "I don't know this guy." At that moment, I thought he was joking around, but after seeing his face, I knew that he was serious. So here we are, 2 young college students stuck with a stranger that apparently knows a lot about Alex without even meeting him. We were both really young at the time, and we didn't really react in a good way. Every human being in this kind of situation would have called the police or asked him to leave, but we were really lost and didn't know about it. And we were scared of his reaction if we would have asked him to leave, so we thought, hey, let's eat early so he'll feel uncomfortable about not being invited for dinner and he'll leave. But as we were dining in the kitchen, he just stayed in the living room and started to watch TV without even asking us. At the same time, our 3rd roommate Polly just came home from work. She entered the apartment and said hi to the guy in the living room before joining us in the kitchen. She then asked who he was and wasn't really happy when we told her we didn't have any idea of who he was or how to make him leave. We explained to her our dumb strategy of just living our life until he felt uncomfortable and that he would leave, and she started to act with us and just tell us about her day. At that moment, Polly was going through a rough period and was telling us about it. Not a really fun story to tell or listen to, but while she was telling us about her misery, the guy in the living room joined us in the kitchen and started laughing about Polly's story before going back to watch TV. It was really creepy. At this moment, Alex had enough and asked us to leave the apartment while he was going to deal with the guy. And this is what happened when we left. Alex got back to the living room and started to act like he was about to go to bed. Another dumb strategy, yes I know. His room was opening on the living room, so he had told the guy that he was about to go to bed and left the door half opened while starting to remove his jewelry. He noticed that the guy on the couch wasn't moving or caring about the fact that there was no one left in the apartment except Alex that was in his room. Alex went up to him and told him that maybe it was time for him to leave as he was his friend and that he was going to sleep, but the guy replied to him, "I'm waiting for the girls." Alex got mad and finally put him out of the apartment. At the same time, Polly and I were going back in the building and met the guy on the stairs. He wished us a good night with a creepy smile and he left. Going back to the apartment, Alex told us what happened and we started to ask ourselves, who was that guy? How did he know Alex's name and surname? How did he know where he was and his working schedule? How did he find our address? We spent a part of the night trying to find answers without any success. We learned from our mistakes and decided to never open the door again to someone that we didn't know. 2 weeks later, Polly was chilling in her room and she was home alone. Her window was giving a view on the parking lot, and as she was looking through it, she saw a red car parking. The guy was back. Polly got the very good idea to note his license plate and to verify that the door was locked. The guy came up to the apartment and told Polly the exact same thing that he had told me the first time he came. Polly got mad and told him that if he was still there in 5 minutes, that she would call the police. It was the last time that he came. A few weeks later, Alex came back home after work telling us that he finally remembered where he already had met the guy. So here's the story. Alex used to go to a bar where you were able to play video games while drinking. Apparently the guy was in the same bar at the machine next to him and tried to talk to Alex, but he was too focused on his game and only took the time to tell him a quick hello. Well, that guy probably followed Alex around for a week or two after that day. We moved out of the apartment a few months after this story. Luckily, I haven't seen the guy since then. I want to start off by saying that I'm a stay-at-home mom. A very stay-at-home loner mom, and with my family so far away, it didn't feel right to have them worry. I just wanted to tell my story, whether someone reads it or not, it doesn't really matter. I'm not a writer by any means, and this was just my thoughts and a recap of my night. Tonight, I tucked my oldest kid into bed and on my way out to the new nightly ritual of feeding my neighbor's cat, my husband made a joke about wanting corn dogs from 7-Eleven. I don't get out much and don't mind, so I said we needed milk anyways and we went on our way. The neighbors were uneventful, except for one cat hooked her nail into my middle finger when I was giving her treats. Because of this, I left earlier than usual and headed straight to the store. It was just after 9 p.m. and I pulled up to the 7-Eleven, parking alongside the side of the building, unobstructed windows spanning the entire length of the building, and it's well lit. I immediately noticed a gentleman in blue standing up on the sidewalk. I pay no mind but start gathering my things. My finger still really hurts though. I'm taking my time and cursing that gorgeous cat when I hear a man's voice mumble something. My window was partially open, but my windshield is already fogging up, and when I look up to see that he's walking towards my passenger side, he starts trying to open the door, but thank God my kids have broke that door handle and it won't open. I immediately step out of my car, and with me standing in my open door, looking out across the windshield, I say, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" And he starts saying over and over, "Are you yellow cab? Are you yellow cab?" And I say again, "I don't know you. I'm not letting you in my car." He realizes that he can't get in and people are watching, so he starts to walk away from my car and I run inside. I'm a little shaken up, but I try to sum it up to mistaken identity. We live in a small town and our cabs are just random cars. I'm walking around and trying to make sure that he isn't near my car, and at one point, I see him looking like he's walking away. I call my husband and tell him a little bit of what happened, just to hear him say it's probably nothing. Corn dogs in hand, I walk out and head towards my car. Visions of this guy in my backseat flashing through my head. I see him walking away from my car, but now he has a backpack. Something flashes on at the side of the pack and it hits me. I didn't lock my door when I ran inside. This POS has my 5-year-old son's backpack. I thought that he might bolt, but he started walking back towards me instead. I said again, "That's my son's backpack," and he again starts saying, "Are you yellow cab? Are you yellow cab?" I yell louder. That's my son's backpack. Give me it back. For a millisecond, I even considered the fact that this might not be my son's backpack and I panic. But I'm convinced the moment that I see the bus pass. This man is still going on about yellow cab and I looked at him furious. Mama Bear was upset. I take an extra long look at what he was wearing. Hospital blue pajama pants and a deep but vibrant blue hoodie, with a WOT logo in the O at some hemisphere lines of something in it. All of this happens in a few seconds and I just remember looking at him, upset and telling him that he's asked for stealing the little kid's backpack and that he should get out of here. Maybe it's because I live in Canada, or maybe it was because I didn't leave the area where I could be seen, but he started walking away. I went inside immediately and told the clerks, but I don't think any of us knew what to do. For a second, I wasn't going to call the cops. It's just a backpack. But I just couldn't help but think about him trying to get into my car with me in it, so I did call the police. I started telling them what was happening and then I saw the guy again. I followed him while I was on the phone and I parked way ahead of him. And time passed quickly when you're on the phone with the cops and the guy passed by my car. He turns back and sees that it's me and turns around. I haven't turned off my car, so I panic, but I shift into drive and start driving away. The man wasn't scared. He was actually walking back to my car. As I'm driving away, I tell the officer, what the F I was thinking, this is so dangerous. I gave you his description and his general location, I'm going home. We finished the conversation on the way and I gave them my info and the guys. I don't know why I followed him. I follow a lot of true crime and I guess I just could not report a man trying to get into my car. I told the police the same. I got off the phone and I went inside. My husband is good at pointing out people's hardships and it is clear this man had mental health issues, and I suppose some addiction issues. He was rather thin with large scabs on his face. He kind of dumbed down how I feel about it, and I think that's why I wanted to write this. What happened, it scared me, and I don't know why I did what I did. All of it seems pretty stupid. I approached the guy and I drove after him. God, I'm ridiculously slow sometimes. I did get the backpack back, but it was stupid. I received a phone call 5 minutes before I started writing this and the police had got in. He's got to the station for the night because he is extremely intoxicated. The officer's words. We pulled up with our lights on and he asked if we were a yellow cab. A part of me feels like maybe he was just a drunk or something, but a part of me thinks this guy was using that as an excuse to why he would be thinking to get into my car. I definitely had an adrenaline rush and now I'm just kind of tired. Thanks for reading. It was a weird night. When I was in college, my junior year, I lived in a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom dorm. This is relevant to the story. My roommate and I had roomed together before, so we were pretty good friends. Long story short, we slowly but surely stopped being so close. So, my roommate gets this boyfriend who was like 30 and doesn't go to college at all. He spends the night or whatever, but I don't care, that's her business and our room's locked. Anywho, one night our boyfriend comes over and brings some creepy friend along with him. He was polite, but I didn't want anything to do with him. I made sure to go to bed before they did, so I wasn't stuck out in the living room with him. Because he was spending a night too, and I didn't even want him to think that there was a chance in heck that he could sleep with me. Flash forward to 2 a.m. I hear a knocking at my door. My first thought was, oh heck no, I know it's that dude. So I play dead and I don't move a muscle, hoping that he would get tired of knocking and just go away and go to bed. And the knocking got louder and louder and angrier sounding. Finally, he stopped for a second, and then I hear him turning my doorknob and pushing up against my door. Now luckily, I slept with my door padlocked. Like I said, my roommate and I were not on good terms. Once he figured out that he couldn't break down the door, he just kept knocking all night long. As I laid there in fear that at any moment the door would give. Yes, I did think that maybe he had used the restroom, but he should have asked his friend or went outside. He's a man after all. Finally, morning came and he stopped. I fell asleep for maybe like an hour or so, and then my roommate and her boyfriend come knocking. I opened the door, intending to tell them about what happened last night, but they already knew. My roommate was smiling as she apologized, as if the situation was funny. The boyfriend seemed truly sorry, but the whole situation was just strange. I still to this day think that she was setting me up to get attacked or something. I was home alone one hot summer evening. My parents were out on business and I was enjoying the time alone to do whatever I wanted. Now we lived in a 2-bedroom first-floor apartment at the time. From the front entrance was a hall that opened into the kitchen, and to the left at the far end of the kitchen was my room, and to the right of the kitchen was the living room which connected to a small den. My parents' bedroom was also connected to the living room off to the right. It was around 9 p.m. when I just finished dinner and began my nightly routine of taking out the trash, brushing my teeth and shutting down for the night. Before retreating to my room, I opened all the windows in the kitchen and living room so that the house would cool down over the night. The windows were all barred, so I wasn't too worried about any funny business happening. I'm a little bit of a security freak, so all the doors in the house have locks, including my bedroom and the bathroom. I shut off all the lights and went to my room to watch TV. At around midnight, I dozed off. I had a weird dream, or rather a nightmare of someone knocking on my door, with the knocking getting progressively louder. It was odd because in the dream, I was laying in my bed but couldn't move. The knocking got so blaringly loud until I couldn't stand it, and then I heard a scream and I woke up. My heart was racing and I was sweating a little bit, but no damage done. I looked around my room and glanced at my alarm, which read 4 a.m. Seeing nothing out of the ordinary, I brushed the dream off and I laid back down. I closed my eyes and suddenly heard knocking on my actual bedroom door. A little delirious, I thought I had slipped back into my nightmare. My eyes shot wide open and I sat up and stared at my door, trying to listen. There were 3 slow knocks that followed. My very first thought was that my parents were back early with food or something and they wanted me to have some. My dad was notorious for knocking on my door when he got home late at night to check on me, sometimes without calling my name first. I always told him that it spooked me and he should announce himself when he knocks, but he would always forget. I got up and began walking towards the door, but something felt wrong. When my parents come home, there's usually a lot of commotion. They might be having a conversation, or I can hear their keys jingling. My mom's heels, footsteps, something. This time, though, it was dead silent. I stopped halfway to the door and called out, "Who is it?" No answer. I opened my mouth to call it again, but before I could get the first word out there were several rapid knocks on the door. Very persistent knocks, as if it was an emergency, and whoever was on the other side needed to get in now. I felt a lump in my throat. My mind was racing, and the first thing I thought of was, what if it was my dad on the other side and he's in trouble? What if he's choking and he can't speak? What if he needs my help? I was frozen in place and I couldn't move. I said, "Who is it?" once more. Again, nothing. "Please say something, please tell me who it is, it's not funny," I said. A few moments of silence went by. Suddenly, it was as if someone threw their whole weight in the door. Rapid, loud bangs began attacking the door. Kicks, punches. It was as if there were 3 people on the other side trying to break the door down. It was so loud that I started crying. I found myself jumping backwards and crawling to the corner of my room. The violent banging went on for a few more moments, and then silence. I sat in the corner frozen. My hands were covering my mouth and tears were rolling down my cheeks. I thought this was the end. I was shocked that the door still stood because when I heard the first bang, I thought the frame would come crashing down, and whatever was on the other side would instantly enter and end my life. I sat there for a brief period of time that felt like an eternity. Suddenly, I heard clinking, the sound of metal brushing past each other. I knew whatever was on the other side was going through the silverware drawer. If my life didn't end already, this was my last chance because I wouldn't get another. I sprang up and climbed out of my dresser, sitting against my window. I threw open the curtain and shoved the window down and climbed out as quietly as I could. I fell to the sidewalk and ran to the police station down the road. I was hysterical and told them what had occurred. That night, my parents were called and they did an investigation of my house. The only things out of place were a cigarette butt left at the base of my bedroom door and a butter knife on the kitchen table. In the following months, we moved out of that apartment, and thankfully, I can say that was the most excitement that I had ever been through. I soon went to college, graduated, moved to a new state with my family nearby, and life is continuing on as normal. I never know if it was a prank that night or someone was actually out to get me, but luckily, I'll never find out.